Yeah.
Bro,
What up, man? Good to see you, man.
Likewise, bro. You all right?
All right, doing great, man.
Yes, sir. Easy Street. Love.
Yeah, man.
Love. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good to meet you, bro.
Likewise.
All right, no doubt, man. Yeah, the grind is serious.
Yes,
what you're doing
sir.
is very special, man.
Thank you, man.
I like that victory lap too, man.
Yeah, you fuck with it?
Hell yes.
Love, thank you.
Oh yeah, I like how you mixed it up, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you came with the G-Funk in there too.
Yeah,
You went back to that shit. I was like, oh yeah.
Thank you,
Come on,
bro.
man. Main camera, can we lock that door right there, please? I started my radio career in 1990 in Dallas, Texas. There was a young football player, forgot his name, but he was a star athlete from Kimball High School. And I had invited the football team up to come celebrate their great win. Little did we know, the star player on Kimball's football team was killed by some senseless gun violence that happened in Dallas, Texas. And I was affected by this tremendously. I was just starting my career. A young kid that I had met in the studio on my show, was no longer with us, and I really didn't know how to handle it. Some people are able to meet somebody one time and then something bad happened, that individual die, and not even care about it and just keep on moving. But I'm not built like that at all. I take things very personally. I think there's a word for this. I'm an empath. I care about all these things. It's one of the blessings that, God has given me to be able to put myself in the shoes of other people that are feeling pain, people that are in hospitals, nursing homes, all that. It's a gift and it's a curse. And I'm thankful for being that way. During my career, I've had to deal with, report, and basically inform everyone about the deaths of people like Tupac Shakur, Notorious B.I.G., Jam Master Jay. The list goes on. And it's very disheartening now to have to even talk about the death of another man that I met on February 23rd, 2018. Of course, I'm talking about the rapper Nipsey Hussle. I only met Nipsey one time. But still, I take this very personally because, he's a member of our community. So this edition of the Street Report podcast will feature an exclusive interview that I had with Nipsey Hussle on February 23rd, 2018. And you'll hear that interview in its entirety. You'll be able to see it on TV next month. Also, we'll feature some of the speeches that were given at the candlelight vigil at Malcolm X Park here in Washington, D.C. I spent a few minutes with my good brother, Wes Hall, who I work with over at WHUR, and he's also covering sports at NBC Sports Washington. He's from the West Coast. He's from Los Angeles, and he had a very interesting take that I need you to hear. And I also stopped by City Hall and spent a few minutes with councilmember Robert White to talk about the violence issue in D.C. and what we're doing to curb some of that violence. This is the Street Report tribute to Nipsey Hussle. May our dear brother rest in peace.
You gonna learn today.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Are you ready?
This ain't the radio.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
The Street Report podcast.
He raps for the DMV to the fullest.
Hosted by Easy.
Mr. President.
It is great to talk to you.
Raw and uncut.
I let your boys, it's Jay-Z.
DJ Khaled.
What up, though? It's your boy Big Snoop D-O-double-G. Rocking out with my nephew, Easy Street.
Easy Street.
The Street Report podcast, hosted by Easy.
Make sure you subscribe to The Street Report wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher. Please hit that button and subscribe. I'll be dropping a brand new podcast every week. You might want to turn on your notifications. Also follow at Easy Street on Twitter and Instagram. The official website for The Street Report is easystreetshow.com. What up, Nip?
What's the deal?
All right, LA in the building, man.
Yeah, it don't stop. What's up, man?
How you feel, man?
I feel good. The album is out. You know what I mean? Victory Lap is everywhere. You can stream it, download it, go in the store and grab it. So we just on the campaign supporting it.
Okay, so this album, man, I mean, this is the first album on a major label because we know you did other stuff independently, correct?
Well, this is my first album in general. Everything else been a mixtape.
Right.
And yeah, we got a partnership with Atlantic Records through All Money In. So this is our first release through that partnership.
Okay, what took you so long to go down this path with the label?
I mean, we had to justify the deal. We had to prove that we was worth what we was asking for. And so, you know, after the success we had with the mixtapes, the Proud to Pay campaign, the Crenshaw, we came back to the negotiating table and everybody was ready to put the deal together.
Let me tell you what I like about you. The business is tight.
Right, thank you.
The
Thank you.
business is airtight. You've been patient with it.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about the stores. And you have the Marathon store and a lot of other business things going on too.
Yeah, so the Marathon store, it's on Crenshaw and Slauson. That's actually the corner, a big intersection in LA that we grew up in the vicinity of. You know, as a young teenager, we used to hustle in that parking lot. And so as we got into music and start getting real resources, we decided to grab one of the spaces, and now we own 3 of them spaces in the strip mall. We got a fish market, we got a cell phone shop, we got the actual Marathon store, and then we got one of the spaces just for inventory room. So we got 4 spaces actually.
Okay, so you got the Marathon. So why do you name it Marathon? You got Marathon, you got Victory Lap, all these things kind of about racing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a metaphor for life. You know what I mean? Life is not a race, and you can't. If you looking at life as, I don't like the position I'm in right now, so I'ma quit. You got a confused perspective. I think you could look at anybody's whole life story and been like, dang, it looked real tricky right there, but then they stayed in the game, and you know, they ended up being able to be successful in the long run. So it's just a metaphor for life. It's a marathon, so don't get too up or too down from any one of the legs. Just
stay in the middle,
stay in the race and cross the finish line. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you got K-Dot on this album.
Yeah. Kendrick came through and killed it. A record called Dedication. You know, we got YG, we got CeeLo Green, Puff is on there. Marsha from Floetry.
I heard that, yeah.
You know what I mean? Stacey Barth, she's on one of my favorite records. It's a ton of dope songwriters, artists, Dom Kennedy, Belly, you know what I mean? Just people who I respect their musical contribution, you know what I mean? And everybody came through with their A game for me, so shout out to all the guests on the album.
Okay,
you know?
So we know that Nip is a LA Laker fan.
Yeah, I'm a LA everything fan, man.
Okay, are you a fan of the Clippers?
I am a fan of the Clippers too. Yeah, honestly, the Clippers games be so turned up.
Compared to the Laker games?
Well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that, but I'm gonna just say the energy in that building is crazy when it's a Clipper game. You know what I mean? Okay. So, I think it's just a different fan, you know what I'm saying? So the Clipper games be turned, you know what I mean? Only thing I seen comparable to that is like Oakland. When I went to the Oracle Arena, I seen how they energy was, but Clippers games be turned, you know. But you know, I be at the Laker game just as well, you know. I'm just an LA rep, man. I rep for LA.
Okay, from back in the day, your favorite Lakers of all time. Give me 3, your top 3.
I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Obviously, Shaq and Kobe.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But it's a lot of legends.
Kareem?
I'm saying, look, it's a lot of legends.
Worthy?
But look what I'm gonna say. It was Mother's Day one year, and we was at the Forum. My sister's dad used to work at the Forum, so we used to go to the games a lot as little kids. And you know, Derek Fisher was coming out the tunnel, and we was like, man, let me get an autograph. He stopped his limo, hopped out the limo, and signed my autograph. So I'm gonna say Derek Fisher.
Okay.
Yeah, just because he kept it thorough when I was a young kid, you know. Wow. And he leave it all on the court every game.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now, LeVar Ball, father of.
I fuck with LeVar, man.
You like him?
I fuck with LeVar.
Okay.
Man.
Why?
I never say nothing bad about that man, cause how he rep his sons and how he rep for himself and his family, and he you know what I mean. He's against popular opinion with some of his tactics, but that's because there's an agenda to keep people from owning stuff. You know what I mean? So he like, I'm gonna do my own shoe. I'm gonna own my own shoe. We should never ridicule him for that. No matter how boisterous and how flamboyant he expressed it, he's saying something real. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna always rep for LeVar.
Okay, so he said that if the Lakers don't take his other 2 sons, that he's gonna take Alonzo away. Your thoughts on that?
Man, rep for your family, man. You know, you don't own the Lakers. They don't got your last name. Your sons do. You know what I mean? That's your job, is to make sure your family end up where they need to end up. So I never side with a company over a father pushing the line for his kids. You got kids?
Oh, hell yeah.
You gonna push the line for your kids.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna push the line for my kids. Man, they school, whatever, they after school, sport, whatever, I'm riding with my kids. You feel me? So I respect that.
Mm-hmm. We know that LeBron James will be a free agent after this year.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I've seen pictures of him in a Laker jersey. Your thoughts on that?
You seen pictures of him in the Lakers?
Yes.
Where them pictures at?
They on the internet right now.
Is it Photoshop?
Yes, they Photoshopped.
Oh, all right. Okay, cool. Nah, you know, IT is my boy. Isaiah Thomas, he recently came to the Lakers.
Yes.
I'm excited about that. I'm gonna make sure I'm courtside majority of them games next year. And you know, man, like I said, whatever good for LeBron and his family, I support, man. You know, LeBron's somebody that he accomplished so much in sports that one of his biggest accomplishments, in my opinion, was going back to Cleveland.
Yes.
And taking it. Even if you see his post-game interview after where he got emotional.
Right.
Because I think that was something real high on his bucket list, was to bring it back home, and how they got on his head when he left.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like, man, at this point he adding notches to his legacy. So if you want to come to LA and enjoy the weather, you know what I'm saying? Fuck with Hustle and the Crips. Come on through, LeBron. We waiting on you, man.
Now, who you got in the finals? Go ahead. Tell us right now on camera. Who do you got in the NBA finals?
This year?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, I'm a big James Harden fan. I'm a big Westbrook fan. I'm a big LeBron James fan. So, man, you know, any one of them three I would love to see take it. You know.
You didn't mention the Warriors at all.
I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I think the Warriors have one of the best chances.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And you got to respect greatness. I wouldn't be a bandwagon fan because I never was a big Golden State Warrior fan. Draymond, you know, actually worked with one of my close friends, you know what I mean, and done a lot for the community that I'm from. So obviously it'd be great to see them go again. But I just don't want to hop on the bandwagon. But you got to respect what they doing. And, you know what I mean, it's a great team. You know what I mean, they got some of the best players in the league. And I was fascinated by that season when they went on that run and they beat the Bulls record.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's what made LeBron win even bigger, because it was a season when the Golden State Warriors beat the Bulls record.
Yes, they did.
And then they lost to LeBron and them in the finals.
Yes, they did.
So that was unbelievable for me. But, you know, man, at the end of the day, whoever deserves it going to get it. You know, so it's hard for me to bet, but I'd love to see Harden get him one. I'd love to see Westbrook get him one. And then, you know, LeBron could always use another ring. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, talk to DC real quick. Let them know one major reason why they should get the album Victory Lap.
One of the major reasons, because I ain't waste a bar. I could mute the whole music and listen to every word I said. My mama could listen to it. My daughter, people closest to me, and could say everything is truthful and honorable. And you know what I mean? I'm proud of that. So check that out. Victory Lap out everywhere.
Go get it.
Yeah.
Special thanks to June Carver from Atlantic Records. Also want to thank my good friends over at DTLR as well. And if you don't have that Victory Lap album, you got to get that. Amazing. My favorite record, Rap Niggas. Let me see. I love the Dedication joint. And my favorite, I just been listening to Double Up like all day for like 3 days straight, featuring Belly and Dom Kennedy. That is one of my favorite records, but the album is a classic. Make sure you cop that. The day after Nipsey was killed, there was a candlelight vigil at the Malcolm X Park in Washington, D.C. on 16th. It was an amazing event. Star-studded. A lot of people came through. This is Dr. Micheal Eric Dyson.
I met Nipsey Hussle on a 6-hour flight from Los Angeles to New York City. And we sat together and talked about a great many subjects. He talked about his gang-banging days, his days of carnage and lethargy in the streets of Los Angeles. He spoke about the devastation that was wrought on his community. He spoke about the need to forge connection with older brothers and sisters, such as myself. And then we had a powerful conversation about intellect and art and social struggle and the beauty of lyrics that were really pavement poetry. Poetry that was wrought from existential crisis and philosophical reflection and hurt and pain at the most fundamental level. He loved Tupac. He considered himself the Tupac of his generation. And how prophetic is that, right? He talked about being prolific, so gifted. And he was prolific and so gifted. Like Tupac, he was relentless and restless in his desire to express his clear beliefs about the nature of the struggle that lay before us. You have heard it here today so eloquently about his ability to join entrepreneurial energy with philosophical expression, with lyrical intensity. And let's be honest, people weren't expecting a guy from the hood like that to be that smart.
Right.
They weren't expecting his kind of critical analysis of Abraham Maslow and the inverted pyramid about which he spoke, and the hierarchy of needs that he reflected on, but he talked about that. And when he and I were speaking, he talked about some of the books that I had written and some of the stuff that I said. Highly intelligent, highly insightful, despite the narrative of the stereotype, the ink on his body, the tears festooned on his face, permanently inscribed in his skin because it was a reading of his own crisis and the crisis of his brothers and sisters. And so, as was eloquently said, some people have said, well, why y'all celebrating him and not others? This is the day, 51st anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr. Other people died on that day too. It is not that we are ignorant of the 11 other people who died the day that Nipsey Hussle died. But what he understood is that he could use his platform to highlight, underscore, and bring a powerful emphasis on stuff because he was more famous. The tragedy of this unforgivable, unspeakable act of horror and death that snatched his life is that he was in the very community that needed him most. Unlike so many others who fled their communities, leave the hood. And some people are saying that now. This is what happens when you try to stay behind. That's not true. This is not the only thing that happens. What happens is so many more people are invested in life than death. So many more people want to see celebration of intelligence and poetry and power and the love for each other. So many other people want to see the evolution of consciousness. We cannot allow one dark, evil blight to remove the beauty and the power of what this man represents. That would be like saying because we have an inveterate narcissist at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, a nihilistic, pathological, incapable of enlightenment buffoon who is incapable of understanding the fundamental arc of humanity, that we should therefore give up on the ability to vote or to strategically intervene in social processes so that we can edify our communities. We ain't going for that. And so Nipsey Hussle was a brave, beautiful man. His beautiful mate, Lauren London, who spoke words that she's lost without him, their child and his children, without a father. And yet what we must remember is that Nipsey Hussle did not give his life in vain. We don't choose the day we come here, and we often don't choose the day we leave. And yet what is important is the dash between the date of arrival and the date of departure. Nipsey Hussle released more music through mixtapes and through Victory Lap than many people do in an entire career. Like the man he loved, Tupac, who was relentless in his investigation of the horrors and struggles of life. But the beauty of Nipsey Hussle, and when I interacted with him after that date, the beauty was his humility and his willingness to learn what he didn't know, and his willingness to say he didn't know it and to dig deeper. I loved him because his intellect was so sharp. I teach people every day, from the level of bachelor's degrees to PhD. He was one of the smartest human beings I've met, bar any kind of educational or institutional achievement. And so I'm here today with a heavy heart, a sad spirit, but one that nevertheless looks up. The man who died this day, Martin Luther King Jr., I've written 2 books about him. He died at 39. Nipsey Hussle dies at 33. I don't need to tell you the meaning of that year. Another figure 2,000 years ago gave up his life at 33 years old. Am I trying to say, some people would say, how dare you? Are you trying to call him savior? I didn't say he was a savior. He is a savior. He's a savior of those who look to him for redemption from the carnage that they were subject to when they walked on the street. He saved black and brown and red and yellow people who were able to remove the barriers and obstacles and impediments that kept them from being human. He was a savior to a society that refused to acknowledge the humanity of black people. And one thing he was insistent on is that he loved his people. Yes, Pan-African in the best sense of that word. Yes, global African. Yes, transatlantic blackness, whether it was in Salvador de Bahia, or whether it was in Birmingham, or whether it was in Los Angeles. He understood the nature, the beauty, the persistence, and the uplift of being black without apology or excuse. And so, my brothers and sisters, let's honor his life. Let's honor the beauty and the integrity of his blackness. Let's honor his quest for knowledge, self-knowledge primary among them. Let's honor the beautiful way in which he embraced his loved ones, his beautiful partner, and his child, and his children. And let's, if we will, honor him by taking up his causes, of staying in the hood, of making sure that businesses flourish there, that you can love your own. This miscreant and this misled, unfortunate soul, unenlightened through jealousy and envy that snuffed out his life, only gave a bigger wind to the candle that will not remain extinguished. Nipsey Hussle is a tremendous giant, not simply for the way he died, but especially for the way he lived. And so I join with you to say we must continue to celebrate him. The power of his lyrics, the insight of his mind, the brilliance of his cerebral acuity, but especially the depth of his unapologetic love for us. That's what I took for him that day. That's what will remain in my spirit as we continue to uplift him. And remember these words from Howard Thurman, the great prophetic mystic. He said, refuse to reduce your life and your dreams to the event of your experience right now. What you going through right now ain't going to exhaust the infinite capacity of the universe to overcome any obstacle. Howard Thurman said our slave foreparents couldn't even imagine what would happen 100 years after they died. And yet they kept on hoping. Either you will be a prisoner of the event of your time, or you will be a prisoner of hope. Nipsey Hussle was a prisoner of hope. Who had more reason to be nihilistic and skeptical than a young man who grew up banging? But he learned to love himself and others by resisting violence. That's what we must do. Don't reduce our dreams to what we see now, but look out upon the horizon. Join hands with now our ancestor and the saint of our times, and with him, walk into the darkness as a light to defy it with every fiber of our beings. God bless the memory of the great Nipsey Hussle.
That was Dr. Micheal Eric Dyson. His wife spoke after.
People are asking, why am I so upset with the murder of Nipsey Hussle? Good question. We are generations apart, at least 3 decades. We live on different coasts, him on the West Coast and I on the East Coast. He was a gang member, and in the city of Chicago, I was part of the Black on Black Love campaign to deter gang formation in the 1980s. He was hip-hop, and I was hip-hope. Where our lives blended is on the little E at the end of hope. At some point in Nipsey's life, as in mine, we realized the expectation of excellence, entrepreneurship, and elevating education was being undermined in our community. I wept for his loss because I believe in peer-to-peer leadership and was praying that he would be one of the leaders in his generation to turn the tide against our youth. As DJ Khaled said in the song, All the Way Up, they don't want us to win. They want to finish us. They want us broke. They want us miserable. They don't want us to be blessed up. They don't want us to be all the way up. The us he speaks of are the ones outside of the blackness or the enemies inside our community, ourselves. That is what he expressed in his lyrics and in multiple interviews, including the one with my husband, Michael Eric Dyson. His light has been dim, but this candle vigil tonight will be the writing on how to go from here, in memory of this disciple for reconciliation, improved police relations, and mending and healing gang culture. One great thing about this particular young man is that he has fallen asleep, but he has awakened us. I heard someone talk about Pan-Africanism. This is also the year of the return. The motherland is calling us home. But before we get home, we have to have, as I believe CeeLo said in his song Crazy, which sometimes I think I am, all of my heroes have put their lives on a limb, as Dr. King did, who was assassinated this very day. But in order to put our lives on the limbs, for our children to put their lives on the limb, they must be rooted in their identity, in their blackness, in their worldness, in their global citizenry. Then we can stand as tall oak trees. We can be the branches and then the vines that twine and not separate us from one another, but who suture us together and healed our woundedness. Nipsey was a great disciple. Yes, I'm an OG, an old girl, but his life. All right. I was going to start off with after police coming straight from the young underground. Young nigga got his head to the ground. Some police think they have the authority of minority. F that because I ain't the one for mother with a ground in the gun. I'm in jail. We can go one-on-one in the middle of the self, ... But given that, the narrative of Nipsey, which I really appreciated, that he had to stop and say, Black Lives Matter should not be when the blue is beating us down. I'm from the south side of Chicago, keeping it real. I know that every bullet should be an alarm for us to stop gun violence. When you think about the movie Black Panther, the most important thing that stuck out to me were 2 points. When T'Challa went back to his father, he said, why didn't you take the child home? We must bring the children home to their self-identity. And then, when B. Michael took off that shirt, and after I got off of the awe of his physique, excuse me, Michael, I saw the scarring on his body. And it reminded me of my hometown in Chicago where 3,000 people, children, women, fathers, mothers are being shot, that is a mark upon us. And Nipsey wanted to end that.
That is the wife of Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. And of course, our brother Ronald Moten came through from the Check-It store from Southeast, of course, involved with some major stop the violence movements and squashing beefs in the D.C. area for years with Ceasefire, Don't Smoke the Brothers. He was also at Malcolm X Park.
Hurt people, hurt people.
Hurt people, hurt people.
Heal people, heal people.
Heal people, heal people.
I'm saddened about today for so many reasons. I've been doing this work in the community for over 25 years as a 25-year-old man that came home from prison and worked with an organization called Ceasefire, Don't Smoke the Brothers. And somebody showed me another way. And my thing is, what would Nipsey do, right? What would he do? What are you going to do? Because I'm tired of vigils. I go to them all the time. I've been to over 100 vigils. But the problem is when we practice insanity, we do the same thing all over again and expect a different result. What we have to understand is negative things happen when positive people do nothing. Negative things happen when positive people do nothing. And there's too many good people out here. And what we do is we go back to our communities until something like this happen, right? We go in our comfort zone and we don't worry about all the brothers and sisters who's starving out here.
like Nipsey did. We don't worry about all the people who living in trauma because they done seen 5 of their friends get killed and nobody's talked to them and they got no therapy. We don't know what the parents and the mothers go through who raising all these black men out here with no help. We don't know what it is to be at below senior high school, right? And the disparities are outrageous, right? And again, then you go on the other side of the city and brothers getting everything they need and nobody's speaking up for them. And then we sit back and we say, why did they do something like that? Why did somebody pull the trigger? Well, if you ain't got nothing to lose, guess what you'll do?
All right, the good brother Wes Hall in the building. Hey, man, thanks for coming through on the podcast, bro.
Anytime, bro. Thank you.
Now, you're from the West Coast, right?
Yes, sir. Tennessee roots, but yeah, L.A. made me. That's my home. That's my house.
Okay, wonderful. So, our dear brother Nipsey Hussle has made his transition. You know, I wanted to wait till after the funeral before I released any podcast to talk about all of this, man, because it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. First, your general thoughts on what has occurred.
It's a tragedy. I mean, there's really no other way to put it like that. An untimely passing of someone, whether they're famous or not, it's impactful to us all. And it's one of these situations where I think it has brought a lot of attention to the inner city and the urban settings and some of the things that go a little unnoticed, which are people who are still trying to invest in growing and helping the quote-unquote hood. Like, everybody thinks that it's just glitz and glamour riding around and having fun, but it's like, no, man, those are real lives that are affected by that. And Nip is one of those dudes who is really putting his money where his mouth was, and I always will have the utmost respect for him for that.
So what are your people on the West Side saying? What is the West Coast vibe about losing Nipsey, man? What's being said?
At first, it felt like going into somebody's house after someone had passed, where it was just like that painful mourning in energy. Now you're seeing a lot of people who were like, you heard Lauren say it at the service, marathon continues, and that seems to be the consistent through line, is just really understanding that if you want to celebrate his life, then you continue on the mission that he was on. You know what I mean? And so I think I see a lot of people that are really kind of saying, hey, let me do the same thing. I may not be able to do it on his scale. Some might not have the resources to do that, but I'm going to try to make the same type of impact, for the neighborhood that gave birth to me and represents.
He made an impact in so many different ways. What was the most impressive thing that you saw that Nipsey was able to do?
Nipsey staying true to himself is probably the most admirable thing to do, because it's easy when you garner a little bit of success to kind of run down that road and not look back. And for him to be able to understand the value of his own presence. Sometimes it's not about the money that you invest. Sometimes it's not about the people and the glitz and glamour and the stuff that you can kind of show off. It's about literally physically being there, letting people know, hey, I got a little something and I'm looking out for you too. And I'm here every day. You want to come see me? Come see me. I admire that and I respect it a lot.
Mm-hmm. So there are people, we were talking about this earlier, like there's a meme that came out, before I don't even know if this is real, but,
right.
The meme about Suge Knight saying, he was loyal to the hood, but that was his mistake. Your thoughts on that?
What I just said, I'd be hypocritical if I were to call it a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake because that's what you're supposed to do. Does that mean that death is what should come with it? Absolutely not. Like, what Suge is saying is like, I'm going to try to interpret. I can't speak for the man, but I'm going to try to hopefully bring the better side of what I think he might have been trying to say, which is you can try to do better, but know that creates a target on you. And for me to think that, oh man, well, if I try and somebody's going to try to take me out, so what? That disincentivizes me actually trying to help people? Like, I can't work and function in fear.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm didn't function in fear. Neither did Martin, and the list goes on. Garvey, I mean, come on. Like, I'm not about to say, let me not try to get back to the hood because they ain't going to appreciate nothing. Like, whatever. Somebody planted a seed in me. It's my responsibility to plant the seed in somebody else, regardless of the outcome.
Mm-hmm. So, looking at the aspect also of, from a branding situation. We were talking earlier off mic. This brother's store is sold out. The Marathon store is sold out for the rest of the year.
Right.
I was ready to fly out to LA. I was looking at my calendar saying I'm going straight from the airport,
straight to
the Marathon store to buy some gear, but there's not going to be any gear for the rest of the year because everything is sold.
which is a testament to just how supportive our community is. One thing I wish that we would be better at is having that kind of support when someone is still here to smell and receive their roses. Again, it's unfortunate that this situation caused that, but I wish that we would be able to we would have been able to flock to Marathon while he was still here, and been able to help him grow that to where he didn't just have one complex, but 12 of them in LA, and then branch and go into Vegas and so on and so forth. Like, that's what I really want people to kind of take away from this, is that let's not just wait until something tragic happens for us to come together. Let's do it as a celebration of life during life, where we really support each other and encourage each other. Because, what did he say in New Jack City? He said, C&B, man, we all we got. Like, I don't know who we keep
Am I my brother's keeper?
Yes, I am. Like, I don't know why we keep looking around trying to figure out if there's a savior around and somebody going to come save us. And it's like, yo, we've got the capabilities right here within ourselves. All we have to do is really focus and be dedicated and really trying to reach the goal that we find mutually and communally beneficial.
Do you think that the family is going to try to do what we've seen happen with Bob Marley in regards to licensing and franchising and having stores with memorabilia in regards to Nipsey Hussle? Do you think that that's a viable or even a good idea for the family?
Okay, so is it a good idea? From a business standpoint, I would say yes. Go ahead and lock down, whatever licensing you have to, because you know how things go. People are kind of going to do whatever they're going to do. So it would be wise for the family to kind of go ahead and lock that down. But in general, like, him taking on this kind of Marley-esque situation, right now, you can kind of see that coming. I mean, it's just so crazy right now. It's really difficult for me to answer that question because we're so close to the painting right now. We're so close to the situation. It's going to take a few months for us to be, separated from it to really understand how far out that's really going to spread.
Okay, final question. This whole Tupac comparison.
Oh, man. Come on, man. All right.
The Tupac comparison, I mean.
All right, so Pac died at 25. Nips went out at 33. And let's just keep it real. Let's keep it funky real quick. I think it is entirely disrespectful to compare either one to each other, because when you do that, you're diminishing the value of the person who you're initially trying to compare to. You're saying, oh, Nipsey's this, but he's the next that. Like, wait a second, let him be his own thing. You don't have to compare all the time. You're your own talent, I'm my own talent. The moment we start comparing to each other, we've disrespected both of us, because there's a unique set that you do, there's a unique set that I do, and that's what makes us who we are. That's where the magic comes from. Is that it only came out of that bag. So making the comparison between him and Pac, I think it's woefully. I don't even want to. I'm trying not to curse. I'm really trying to
say that shit.
This some straight up bullshit, because most of the people saying that shit, like, first of all, don't even remember Pac in his prime. Pac died at 25 and 96, bro.
Right.
Everybody like, oh, he's this generation's Pac. How old were you in 96? I remember where I was in 96.
Right.
So let's keep it funky now. And Pac is his own person. Pac is a poet who did poetry on beats, who was a revolutionary from the time he was a kid, brought up in the Panthers. Like, are you seriously going to try to diminish Nip by comparing him? Nip had his own story. Learn that. Respect that. You don't have to compare them. I saw another one, people talking about, oh, well, Nip died at 33, Jesus died at 33. Like, come on, man. Stop comparing the dude. Let his legacy live on through him and what he actually did. It's so good that you don't have to compare it. You're disrespecting him by putting him in those sentences. He's this Pac. He's like Jesus. Don't disrespect that man like that. Nip was Nip, period.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
My dear brothers and sisters, what a joy it is to be standing on sacred ground.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The man who made this happen is not just an ordinary man, because ordinary men don't think like he thought. Ordinary men don't do like he did. He was a man that God sent this way. And he rose up out of a culture that nobody would think that greatness would come out of. It's like the Bible says about where Jesus was born. Can any good come out of Nazareth?
Come on. Allahu Akbar.
Can any good come out of the hood?
Come on.
And Nipsey answered and said, "Here am I."
Yes, sir. Come on.
Send me.
Yes, sir.
I thank God for Brother Minister Tony
Praise be to Allah.
and the work that he and the believers did last Sunday to show a demonstration of love for Ermias Asgadon.
Come on.
Ermias. I like that name, but Nipsey is great too, because in the original language in Eritrea, he's a homie.
Allahu Akbar.
Nipsey means homie.
Allahu Akbar.
One of the
That's my homie.
that never forgot his roots. So all of you that love him, you cannot let his legacy die.
That's right.
He called it a marathon.
Yes, sir.
And you know a marathon is no lightweight jog.
That's right. Right.
Or sprint.
That's right.
As Jesus said it, the race is not to the swift or even to the strong, but the race is to those who can endure to the end.
This is a small excerpt of what was said by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in Los Angeles at the Marathon store. As I told you earlier, in order for us to be able to deal with some of these problems that we're having in our community in regards to violence, it's going to take money. And if we're going to, get that money, we're going to need to talk to the people that got the money. And a lot of times it is the politicians. So I stopped by City Hall in D.C. and I had a sit-down conversation on camera with our good brother, councilmember Robert White.
We're here to talk about our dear brother Nipsey Hussle, who we lost to gun violence in Los Angeles. And we know here in D.C. we have a gun problem as well, but we also have some solutions that we are currently using to eliminate some of that gun violence. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that.
That's right. I appreciate it. And first and foremost, my deepest condolences, my sadness to Nipsey Hussle and his family. It's always tragic when we lose so many good people to gun violence. And so the district is really coping with this issue as well. We've seen an increase, a steady increase, unfortunately, of homicides over the past years. And we're looking for new ways to really address it. And, one of the ways that a lot of people initially go to is more police. And I think police are important. They play an important role in the universe of ways that we address gun violence, but it's not the only solution. And in fact, policing generally isn't a solution in itself. And the police show up after there is a crime. But we in DC are investing more in violence interruption and violence intervention as a way to really suppress crime.
I saw that Mayor Bowser has a brand new initiative called Safer, Stronger DC.
Yes.
And we know that she has budgeted millions of dollars to deal with the issue. And you mentioned the violence interrupters. Exactly what do they do?
So violence interrupters are people with credibility in our neighborhoods who really stay in confined areas to talk to people, particularly those who are prone to violence or prone to be victims of violence, to really help connect them to resources, to squash neighborhood beefs. We have seen a significant downtick in both shootings and homicides in areas where we have seen the Cure Violence model that the Attorney General has pushed. And we see these folks in their yellow shirts out there in the streets. Similarly, the mayor has the ONE's office, or the Office on Neighborhood and Safety Engagement, and they go out in their respective areas and really engage communities, engage those who are committing crimes, engage those who are prone to be victims of crime, and really trying to interrupt crime before it happens. We've seen this work in other parts of the country. New York is investing millions and millions of dollars into this model. We are only maybe a year and a half in, but we're seeing positive results already.
Wonderful. Yeah, I did hear that this is working in other places, and I did see some photos of individuals from Los Angeles and also in New York as well that came down to D.C. to share their success stories with the district. Now, I wanted to ask you a question in regards to prevention. Now, you talked a little bit about it. I noticed that the mayor, and I have the numbers here, $3 million to responsive police force, $714,000 for violence interrupters, and pathways, employment pathways, $610,000. But how can we get more money towards prevention? And what I mean by that is getting to these young people before they even get to get in trouble, before they get into the system. Where is the money that we can put into preventing them from getting into trouble in the first place?
So I really credit the mayor for increasing the amount of funding into violence interruption. All told, in all of our violence interruption programs, I think the proposed investment is around $7 million. The investment that we are proposed to make in our police department, just DC police, not all the other police, is $556 million. And so comparatively, we see that there's a significant imbalance. And so what we keep doing to address crime is putting more and more and more money into policing. But the reality is people with steady jobs, people with steady housing are rarely committing crimes. And so I think that we are under investing in the things that we really have to pay the most attention to. So we need violence interrupters, but people need jobs and people need housing. And we also need to address the trauma that we see in our neighborhoods. Kids who grow up seeing people they know, people in their communities gunned down, that's going to have an impact on them. That's going to live with them. That's going to come out at some point in life. And we have to address that in a very real way. The trauma, the housing, the jobs. If we don't address those, we're going to continue fighting aimlessly against crime.
Mm-hmm. As we talk about our dear brother Nipsey Hussle and how these things intersect here in Washington, D.C., I also wanted to talk about an initiative that you're working on in regards to financial intelligence. We know that brother Nipsey was really deep into business, had several businesses, and where he was taking himself as an entrepreneur is in a place that we haven't seen a lot of people go. Yeah. Speak on that.
What Nipsey understood is that there's no shortcuts. You have to do the work. You're not going to get rich quick. You're not going to get rich overnight. What you have to do is invest. You have to build businesses, and you have to support businesses. And so what I have done is introduce a bill just last week to introduce financial literacy into our schools. So many of us grew up with no money for savings in our family, no one having gone to college. And so there are a lot of financial aspects that we need to know for adulthood that we just didn't grow up knowing. And so we need to know how to save for retirement. We need to know what a 401k is. We need to know how to start a business, how to balance a checkbook. And so I want to see our high schoolers get the opportunity to start learning that early.
Councilmember, I'm so glad to hear you say that because, I'm a big prevention person. What are we doing to make sure that, we kind of prevent these young people from getting into trouble in the first place? And I like what you're doing with the financial literacy. Is there anything else we need to know about?
Look, at the end of the day, I recognize the issues that people in this city are facing. I face them myself. My family is very close to them. So I care about these issues in a very personal way. It's not for me just, policy and what sounds good. For me, it's how do we really address these problems in the way that actually will work? And that's what we have to stay focused on. We have to stay focused on the people.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of work to do. And this work, it has to be done. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like everyone's going to be involved with that work. We're going to need leadership. We're going to need people that are willing to do the work. We're going to need money to do the work. My best advice to you, this is what I've been doing my entire career. I don't know any other way but to be involved with helping out and dealing with issues that affect the African American community. It's part of my life. It's my lifestyle. It's a way of life. And I know that everyone is not built that way, and that's okay. But if we're going to be able to overcome some of these issues, we're going to need some umoja, folks. That's Swahili, okay, for unity. We're going to need that. That's the very first Kwanzaa principle. Dr. King was a great man, but he couldn't have went down to the places that he went to to be able to accomplish the things that he needed to accomplish unless he had a movement of people. And the only way to be able to create a movement of people in any sphere, whether it's a football team, basketball team, whether it's a business, a church, you're going to have to be unified. So let's start there, folks. Okay? Unify. Come together as one with common goals. Put all these differences that we have aside and deal with the issues that we have going on in the community. And then show up. Show your face. Don't just post stuff on Instagram and Twitter and be like, yeah, man, I'm with this. But hey, I can't make it to the rally that's going on down here at all because I'm over here doing this. Yo, get me a t-shirt though, bro. No, really. No, real stuff, man. People saw me with my Don't Mute DC shirt on. Yo, where'd I get my shirt? Where do I get the shirt, bro? How do I get a shirt? You know what I replied? Show up. Just show up, bro. Show up and get a shirt, okay? And be a part of the cause. Don't think you could just sit at home and tweet and be on Instagram and talking about it at the barbershop and thinking that these problems gonna go away. By you showing up and being in the number, because people see that. They see that, oh, there's a lot of people that were out there. Oh, 77,000 people signed this petition on change.org. That means to some people, a lot of people care about this. So more people get involved and the right people begin to pay attention. And now you have some money and dollars to put into some solutions to deal with that problem. That's the way it works. But if your ass didn't show up at all and only 2 or 3 people were there, they don't really care about that. So showing up is very important. Then finally, getting involved. Get involved, people. Get involved. No matter if it's dealing with cancer, HIV and AIDS, social injustice, stuff going on in the LGBTQ community, political issues. Just volunteer, man. Show up. Do some work. Make a donation. Get out there for an hour, once every quarter or once every month. What could it hurt? We need you. We really do. There was a lot said in the loss of our dear brother, Nipsey Hussle. And I'm very appreciative of all the comments that were sent to me, that were DM'd to me. People sent video, photos, audio. And this here, I think, pretty much sums it up better than anybody else could. The mother of Nipsey Hussle.
And now he is even greater.
Yes, he is.
Because he has no bounds and no limits. His energy is everywhere. He can touch. He's there with you now, and he's here with me now.
That's true. That's
and
true.
Please be encouraged.
This is beautiful.
He had a glow. He was radiant.
Yes.
And he was so perfect that he had a sweet aroma.
Oh.
He had a sweet aroma. He even smelled good.
Wow.
So please do not fear death. Death is just the beginning of a wonderful world. And I tell myself, Ermias liked thrilling things, and now my son knows the mystery, the secret rather, to the mystery of life. Yes. Ashe.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the Street Report Podcast. I am Easy Street. You can follow me at Easy Street on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My official website is easystreetshow.com. Want to remind you, the Street Report Podcast is being brought to you by SIA Multimedia, specializing in producing podcasts just like this. We create social media strategies for companies, and we also produce video ads for social media for all you business owners out there. Our website is CYA-multimedia.com. That's CYA multimedia.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SIA Multimedia. Making sure all eyes are on you. Keep that third eye open. One love. Peace. And thanks for rolling with the brother.